Alrighty. Good morning, class. Hello. How are you doing, my beautiful and handsome, amazing scholars? Look at all of you. I love to see all your bright faces this morning. So before we go ahead and get started, please come on in, have a seat quietly. We're going to wait for your friends just for a little bit, and then we'll go ahead and get started. Let me go ahead and check if anyone's out in the hall. Alrighty, how is everyone doing? Did everyone have a good weekend? I hope that everyone had a wonderful weekend, and I hope y'all are refreshed and ready to start this week off strong. So before we begin, I want to kind of give y'all a little sneak peek into what today's lesson and this week, what we're going to be covering this week, is going to look like. So we're starting off strong with breaking down the food chain, producers, consumers, and decomposers. Does anyone have any idea about what a food chain might be, what a producer is, a consumer, decomposer? Has anyone ever heard of any of these words? Go ahead and raise your hands. Hi, friends. Let me see. Yes, Johnny. Wow, that's awesome, buddy. I love that. Go ahead and keep that in mind, okay? So we're gonna go ahead and jump into a short video. So this is going to tell us a little bit more about what we think a food chain is, a producer, consumer, and a decomposer, okay? But before I go ahead and start this video, I'm going to have Johnny. That was an interesting observation, buddy. Actually, you have a couple of note cards on your desk. Do you think that you can go ahead and hand that out to every one of your friends? Alrighty, everybody, so Johnny's gonna go ahead and hand out a note card, okay? As you watch the video that I'm going to show you on a little bit, okay? You can either take a physical note, you can write down what you notice, or you can keep it all in your head. It's up to you, friends, okay? Whichever you think is going to help you remember. And I want you to go ahead and write down what you notice about the video, what you find interesting, but I want you to really think about this question. How do living things get their energy? Okay, so let's go ahead and take a sneak peek into this video. All right, friends, so let's go ahead and come back together. So we just watched the entirety of this video, okay? So let's go ahead and pair up with a partner next to us, okay? Y'all two can pair up. Olivia Sampson, okay? Okay, Johnny with Jade, okay, good job. And I want you to discuss with your partner what you found interesting about the video, anything that you observed, noted, and most importantly, discuss the question, where do living things get their energy? So go ahead. I'm gonna give you 3 minutes, okay? Alrighty, so let's go ahead and come back together. Our 3 minutes is up. Alrighty, let's see, does anybody want to share what they discussed with their partner? Go ahead and raise your hand up high, friends. Yes. Olivia, let's see. What observations did you know? Wonderful, friend. I love that. That is awesome. Alrighty. Connor? Oh my goodness, friend. That is awesome. Good job, buddy. I love to hear it. Look at all these interesting observations. Phenomenal. So what we just discussed out loud, this is exactly what we're going to be learning about this week and observing, okay? So these are awesome. Keep all of these in mind, okay, friends? Because this week, And today specifically, y'all are going to become ecologists. Now, an ecologist is a scientist who studies how organisms, and which could be like living organisms, living things, and non-living things interact in their environment. Okay? So what you guys just said right now is called a food chain. So a food chain is a diagram that shows how energy transfers from one organism to another organism. And that's exactly what we're going to be touching on today and throughout the week. So by the end of today's lesson, friends, you are going to be able to identify organisms as either producers, consumers, or decomposers. You will be able to describe the roles of a producer, consumer, and decomposer, and you will be able to make predictions about the outcome if a producer or a consumer were to be removed or added to a food chain. You will be able to explain how energy flows through a food chain. You will also be able to describe how each organism depends on another organism, whether a plant or an animal, to gain energy for survival. So let's go ahead, friends, let's get into it. Alrighty, friends. So to begin today's lesson, why don't we go ahead? We need to know what our terminology is for this lesson. We need to know what each word that we're going to be talking about means, right? So I was thinking that perhaps we could all get our science journals and let's go ahead and write down a few terms and their definitions. This is going to help us understand our lesson just a little bit more clear, okay? Alrighty, so Johnny's going to go ahead and pass out our science journals, and we're going to go ahead and do the first 4 terms and their definitions today. Throughout the week, we're going to start going down the list, and we're going to have more and more terms that we're going to come to know and understand. This is going to help us. So, we're going to start with our food chain vocabulary. Today, we're going to be learning what is a food chain. What's a producer, a consumer, a decomposer, prey. We're going to also be hitting what animals can be in a food chain, because organisms, living organisms such as plants and animals, they can either be prey, that's an animal that is a food source, can be hunted by a predator. Okay, we have a predator. Now this is an animal that hunts prey. This is how they eat, this is how they get their energy. Okay, they eat other animals called prey for food or energy. Now, animals can be one of 2 things. They can be a carnivore, an animal that just eats meat, which is other animals, right? They can be a herbivore. It's an animal that receives its energy and survives from consuming plants, herbs. So herbs are a type of plant, hence a herbivore. And you know what's interesting about carnivore? Carne in Spanish means meat. So whenever you see carnivore, think of carne, meat eater. They can be an omnivore, an animal that receives its energy and survives from consuming both plants and animals. So omni also means every kind, right? Plants and animals. So whenever you see omnivore, think of an animal that eats both plants and animals. We're also going to be looking into how does an ecosystem play a part in the food chain. So we learned a little bit about ecosystems before this unit. Now remember, an ecosystem is a community built of biotic components, right, living, and abiotic components, non-living, and they interact together, okay, in a space, an area. So we're going to be learning about biotic, living, abiotic, non-living. We're going to be learning about energy flow, okay? How does energy flow in a food chain, okay? And that is through the consumption of food, Each organism eats another organism for food. Okay, and where does this energy start? So we're going to be looking into this as well. Well, it all starts with the primary source. And our primary source is going to be the sun, right? This is where all energy comes from. Alrighty, we're also going to be taking a look into what can disturb a food chain. Okay, what are things that can disturb a food chain, right? Natural environmental changes like a volcanic eruption, a flood, even a drought, right? There hasn't been rain for a long period of time, so the land's very dry and plants they don't have enough water to grow. Okay, this can cause organisms in a food chain to perish, which means passing away, that means dying, right? Perish, that means a community of organisms, like let's say gazelles, right? The gazelles start passing away because they don't have enough grass to eat. Or they can thrive, like let's say now that there's more grass and the gazelles aren't eating the grass, now another animal that eats just grass, right? A herbivore, another animal that just eats plants has more grass to eat and they start growing, right? Their population starts growing. So we're gonna look into this too. So, all right, I think everyone has their journals. Let's go ahead and start with our first 4 terms, and let's go ahead and talk about all of these interesting topics, all right? Alrighty, thank you so much, my beautiful and handsome, amazing kiddos. Thank you, Johnny. Thank you, Olivia, for helping me pick up the science journals. Now, does anyone have any questions about what we just went over? And it's okay, don't be scared to raise your hand. Remember, questions are good. This is how we learn, okay? There's no bad question. There's no weird question. All questions are welcome. Okay, so having learned a little bit about the terms that we're going to be using for this lesson, now let's see if we can apply them to a real life example, okay? So we're going to start with a simple food chain diagram. Now, what does that mean? Simple, it includes your primary source. It includes your one producer, one consumer, and one decomposer. Now, as we get into more complex, which is a little bit more where there's more organisms in the food chain, you'll start to notice that there can be 2 consumers, 3 consumers, right? A little bit more organisms, okay? But let's go ahead and get started with a simple one. So I'm gonna hold up a card and I want you to let me know where this card belongs, okay? Yes, Jade. Yes, good job. So the sun, remember, this is where all our energy comes from. So this is the primary energy source. This is where the food chain begins, with the sun. Now, I also have cards such as El Sol, okay? This one will go above the sun, okay? We have El Césped, or grass, okay? Now, what is the grass's function? Can anyone tell me what the grass might be? A producer, a consumer, or a decomposer? Yes, Hannah. Good job. The grass is a producer. Why? Because it can make its own food through photosynthesis, right? Good job. Okay. What about our little friend, El Conejo, the rabbit? Now, do you think our rabbit friend can be a consumer or a decomposer? Jack. Good job, buddy. Yes, the rabbit is a consumer. Now, why is our rabbit a consumer? Because the rabbit consumes, it gets its energy, right? The arrow indicates where the energy is going, right? The sun gives energy to the grass, and the grass gives energy to our consumer, right? Our rabbit friend. All right, now who does the rabbit give energy to? So let's say now we're at the end of the rabbit's life cycle. The rabbit lived a very long, prosperous life, right? Very happy, but now he's gotten to old age. Now it's time for the rabbit to pass away. Who's gonna get energy from the rabbit? Let's see. How about, let's see, where's our little friend? Where's our little friend? Can anyone tell me our last spot that's open on our simple food chain? There's room for, yes, Elijah. The decomposer. And what is this? Fungi. Good job. We're gonna go ahead and put los hongos, okay? That's another way of saying fungi, right? But in Spanish. Alrighty, so we just completed our simple food chain. Let's take another look. The sun, our primary energy source, gives energy to the grass, which is our producer, right? Because it produces its own food. It makes its own food. And the food is then consumed, the energy is then given to our friend, the rabbit. Alrighty? Now the rabbit, it's our consumer because it consumed the grass for energy. Now the rabbit is going to give energy to los hongos, right? The fungi or the mushroom. It is a decomposer because it's gonna decompose or break down the rabbit once it's passed away. So that way it can give energy back to the soil, which the grass will then, it's gonna start up the cycle again because now the grass has nutrients to grow again. Splendid job, everyone. Good job. Alrighty, kids, good job on this example. So now what I would like y'all to do is I'm gonna go ahead and pair you up into groups of 3. Alrighty, we have our 3 groups, and I'm gonna ask Hannah-Vey if she can pass out a few organisms cards, right? Each group is gonna get 4 organism cards. One is gonna be a primary energy source, one is gonna be a producer, one is gonna be a consumer, and one is going to be a decomposer. Now, what I want you to do is go ahead and build that food chain. I'm gonna be walking around and listening in and asking some questions, all right, about who you think the producer is, who you think the consumer is, who you think the decomposer is, and how does each organism get their energy. So let's go ahead and get started. Here you go, Hannah-Vey. Yes. Alrighty, good job, friends. I saw some interesting observations and I heard a lot of good insight while I was walking around. I even had one group think about what would happen if they removed this consumer, if they removed the rabbit. Let's see, if the rabbit was removed from the food chain, what would happen to the other organisms? Well, the decomposers wouldn't have a consumer to break down, right? So they might start to what? Good job, perish, right? Because they don't have a consumer to break down anymore. How are they gonna break down nutrients to give back to the soil, which is going to help grow the grass, right? So if you remove one organism from a food chain, it can disrupt the food chain, right? And wow, that is interesting. And I love how Hannah-Vey's group talked about, well, what if there were more, what if the grass started growing, there was more grass? Well, now there's a lot of food for the rabbits, right? So we added more grass, there's a lot of food for the rabbits, so they're gonna start growing, right? They're gonna start thriving. Yes, this population's gonna grow. There's gonna be more for the decomposers to break down, so there's gonna be a lot more nutrients in the soil, so there's gonna be a lot more grass growing. Good job. Let's go ahead and return back to our desk. I think that you guys are ready. I think all of you wonderful, amazing kiddos are ready for trying out this food chain, building a food chain on your own. So let's go ahead and give it a try. Alrighty, my super amazing ecologist. So now that we've constructed a food chain together, now I want to see, Miss Diamond wants to see what each of you know about building a food chain, alrighty? So y'all are gonna build a food chain, and it's gonna kind of look like the one that Miss Diamond's holding. So this is Miss Diamond's example, okay? I'm not as creative as you guys are. Y'all guys are very creative, and I know that you guys can draw any type of organism you want to. And it's okay if you don't feel like you're a good drawer, okay? If you don't feel like you're good at illustrating, that's okay, because you're gonna tell me what your organism is anyways, okay? So now we are going to, I'm gonna call you by rows. And in the back kidney table, there's gonna be markers, there's gonna be crayons, there's gonna be glue sticks, and there's gonna be scissors. Now each row is gonna be called, and y'all are gonna go get one of each item, and construction paper. In the back, there's gonna be construction paper. Okay, you have different colors to choose from, okay? So y'all don't need to fight over the same color. There's a lot of it back there. And if y'all run out, just let Miss Diamond know and I'll refill it, okay? There's gonna be in the back kidney table. Now what you're gonna do is you are going to make a food chain, starting with a primary producer, then adding a primary energy source, then moving on to a producer, then moving on to a consumer, and perhaps another consumer, right? If some of you feel like you want to do a more complex food chain, that's okay. Go ahead. And then a decomposer. Now, Miss Diamond ran out of room, but there should be a decomposer here, okay? And on the back, okay, I want you to give me a little explanation, just 2-3 sentences, okay? And if you need a little bit more help knowing what to put for these sentences, I have a few sentence stems up here, okay? I want you to tell me the blank is a producer, consumer, decomposer, and I know this to be true because, so tell me what each organism is. This is for example, the grass is the producer, and I know this to be true because blank. The grass makes its own food, right? Okay, because the grass makes its own food. Okay? And now let's look. And you'll do it for each organism, okay? And you can also do these two, okay? If maybe you feel like you can only do one, that's okay. Okay, if you feel like you can do all three, that's okay, go for it. Challenge yourselves, okay? I'm gonna be walking around the room and asking questions too, okay? So that's gonna go ahead and be your independent project. I'm so excited to see what you guys come up with. And here's some examples, okay? Some of y'all may not know what to draw. Here are some examples of organisms you can use. So go ahead, don't be afraid to look up here and see what organisms y'all wanna use, okay? And some of y'all might wanna create your own organisms, right? Fictional, they don't exist, right? But they can exist. So go ahead and tell me what your organism is, okay? Go ahead, be creative. Alrighty, I'm gonna be walking around seeing what you guys come up with. I almost forgot to add, I'll be in the back kidney table for some time. If you feel like you need a little bit extra support, don't be afraid, come on back with me, okay? And we can go ahead and work on this together, but I'll be walking around anyways, okay? I think you guys are gonna do incredible. And I wanted to also let you know that, let me see, uh-oh, teacher changed your screen. But I also wanted to let you know that I'll also be handing out organism cards if needed, okay? Just let me know if you have any questions. Phenomenal work, class. Oh my goodness, good job on your amazing projects, alrighty? Y'all did that, give yourself a pat on the back. That's awesome. Alrighty, let's go ahead and pass it forward. And let's go ahead, the first person in each row, go ahead and put it in our class tray, okay? Once everyone has done that, let's go ahead and take a seat and let's wrap up today's lesson, all right? Be proud of yourself, kids. Alrighty, let's go ahead and pair up with a partner next to us. Let's go ahead and pair up with our neighbor. Now let's go ahead and reflect on today's lesson, on our project, anything we've learned. Go ahead and share with one another anything that you found interesting, anything that caught your attention, what you learned. Alrighty, tell me, what do you think about if an organism were to be removed or to be added, right? We have more consumers, or maybe a consumer is taken away. Okay, go ahead and tell me, what do you know about how energy flows through a food chain? How does each organism get their energy? Let's go ahead and talk about that for a little bit, all right? I'll give you a couple of minutes and we'll all come back together, all right? And we'll discuss what we've learned, okay? Go ahead and begin. All right, kids, let's bring our focus back to the front of the classroom. Good job. Alrighty, so to wrap up today's lesson, I'm gonna go ahead and have Mati's gonna go ahead and she's going to pass out. We're gonna do a quick exit ticket, all right, kids? So now the exit ticket has everything labeled, okay? This is a lily pad. This is a pond food chain. So this is something you might see, an ecosystem that you might see at a pond. We have a lily pad, we have a snail, we have a frog, and we have fungi, right? And our primary energy source is sun. What you're gonna do is, using the food chain below, you're gonna write above each box which organisms are producers, which ones are consumers, and which ones are decomposers. Alrighty, go ahead, Mati, go ahead and pass this out, pretty girl, thank you. Alrighty. So as we leave today, I want you to go ahead and take away, be proud of yourself. Today, y'all were ecologists, all right? Scientists who study how organisms interact in their environment, okay? That includes non-living, right? Like rocks, right? The soil, and that includes living, like the trees, right? Plants, animals, right? We hit a few of our learning objectives. Good job, kids. And so now I want you to be proud of yourselves, because y'all walked the shoes of an ecologist. Y'all came to identify the roles of a producer, consumer, decomposer, primary energy source, and you were able to describe how important each role, what important role each organism plays in the food chain. And you were even able to describe and predict what would happen if an organism was taken out of a food chain. If it would help a food chain survive, if it would cause another population to perish or to thrive. Good work today. As you guys walk out of class today, I'll go ahead and pick up your exit tickets, and I will be giving you your homework for tonight. Now the homework is simple. It's like a little cut and paste. You are going to cut and paste the organisms into the correct boxes below to complete each food chain. All right, kids. And I know with all the knowledge that you learned today, this is going to help you guys solidify what you know and build upon it, okay? I'm so proud of each and every one of you. Thank you so much for coming to class today, and I can't wait to see you tomorrow, right? Okay, bye, kids.